Good evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Johanna Chan. Here's a look at tonight's top stories. China steps up a probe into a plane crash in Guangxi province. Deaths in Hong Kong's fifth COVID wave shoot past 6,000. And Ukraine's president calls for peace talks with Russia, but wants a truce first. Hopes of finding survivors are fading as mainland authorities continue a grim search following the crash of a passenger plane in Guangxi province. The Boeing airliner, with 132 people on board, was at cruising altitude when it suddenly plunged into a mountain. Soldiers scoured a mountainside in Guangxi province a day after a China Eastern Airlines jet crashed during a flight from Kunming to Guangzhou. Belongings such as wallets and scorched documents were found during the search in Teng County in Wuzhou. Flight MU5735 was carrying 123 passengers and 9 crew members when the Boeing 737-800 took a vertical plunge yesterday afternoon. President Xi Jinping called for a full investigation and ordered an all-out search. Vice Premier Liu He, who was put in charge of the investigation, and State Councillor Wang Yong began the search late last night. Guangzhou Baiyun International Airport set up a reception area covered in black for family members of the passengers and crew. Staff helped them with the arrangements to take them to Guangxi, but some anxious relatives became impatient. This woman said she would take a car to Guangxi to see for herself how the investigation was progressing. But she admitted she might not be able to get off because the crash area is sealed off. China Eastern has grounded all of its Boeing 737-800s and opened a help hotline for family and friends of those on the ill-fated flight. It was the first time in 12 years that a commercial jet has crashed in China. There are 1,200 planes of this model in China, which is Boeing's second biggest market after the United States. As the mainland's Civil Aviation Administration continued its investigation, the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board appointed a senior air safety official as a representative in the probe. In Hong Kong, new COVID cases have fallen below 20,000 for the fourth straight day, but officials warn that the figures are still high. Deaths from the virus in the current fifth wave have exceeded 6,000. Maisie Mock reports.
COVID cases in Hong Kong rose slightly from yesterday to a total of 14,152, with only 10 of the infections imported. Almost 10,000 patients were confirmed by rapid antigen tests and nearly 4,300 through PCR tests. Albert Au from the Center for Health Protection said although the figures in the past few days were lower than last week, they remain at a high level. He pointed out that they are 100 times more than at the peak of the third and fourth waves. There were 245 additional COVID-related deaths, including 190 who died in the latest 24-hour reporting period. The fatalities included a 42-year-old man who had taken 3 COVID jabs. He suffered from severe heart disease and underwent transplant in the past. The man had a fever since early this month and was tested positive with COVID. He was admitted to Pak Oi Hospital on Sunday with fever and shortness of breath and died yesterday. Hong Kong's death toll in the fifth wave has now reached 6,151. Maisie Mock, HKIBC.
The Leave Home Safe app function that tells people to undergo mandatory testing has been reintroduced. This follows the government's decision today to issue compulsory testing notices again. The app will notify people who have been to places deemed as high risk to get tested in community centers. The app's notification function was suspended last month due to the high number of infections across Hong Kong, creating a bottleneck for nucleic acid tests. More companies have joined in the fight against COVID. Chow Tai Fook Enterprises is providing $6 million to support a Sinovac drive for elderly people who do not live in a care home. The campaign, headed by the Federation of Medical Societies, started last week and will benefit around 5,000 people. Chow Tai Fook is also joining other firms in providing accommodation subsidies for care home staff who stay away from their families to prevent them from contracting COVID. 300 staff have the chance to get a maximum of $15,000 for 30 days. The mainland recorded 2,281 locally transmitted COVID cases yesterday, an increase of more than 300 from Sunday. About 80% were new infections in Jilin province, which continued to lead the caseload numbers. A cluster also formed in the Fujian, where another 100 infections were detected in the province opposite Taiwan. Shanghai, meanwhile, reported a record 865 asymptomatic cases. Senior National Health Commission official Liang Wannian, who visited Hong Kong last month, said Beijing will maintain its dynamic zero policy unless there is a new variant that is less contagious. Overseas, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has again called for peace talks with Russia, but only if a ceasefire is in place. This came as Chechen fighters reportedly arrived in Mariupol to help Russian troops seize the city. Footage from the social media page of Chechen leader Ramzan Kadyrov purport to show men under his command arriving in Mariupol. He vowed that they will soon capture the southern port city. More than 100,000 civilians remain trapped in Mariupol, but 45,000 were evacuated. The Ukrainian government said at least 2,300 people were killed. In another southern city, Kherson, which was seized by Russia, a protest against the occupation was broken up by force. Ukraine said Russian troops used stun grenades and gunfire to disperse hundreds of people who were demanding Moscow's withdrawal. Residents of the Ukrainian capital, Kyiv, meanwhile, rushed to repair their homes damaged by Russian shelling. With further attacks expected, the mayor extended a curfew until tomorrow morning. Shops, pharmacies, and petrol stations remain closed, and only vehicles with special permission could move around the city. Since Russia invaded Ukraine on February 24th, thousands of people have volunteered to defend their country. With no immediate end in sight to the conflict, President Volodymyr Zelensky again called for peace talks. He said he's ready to discuss Crimea and the eastern Donbas region once there's a ceasefire and security guarantees. Google is being sued for racial discrimination after Black and minority employees accused the U.S. tech giant of treating them unfairly.
When they raised awareness about the racist, toxic culture, Google did not retaliate against the racist culture, but they retaliated against these victims of the racist culture that exists in Google.
One employee said she was sacked after speaking out against what she called the firm's double standards. She accused Google's top management of having biased and stereotypical views about minority employees, who were allegedly paid less and had fewer chances for promotion. Google has not responded to the claims. Back in Hong Kong, National Security Police say they will investigate everyone who enrolled in a martial arts class run by a man who was arrested for alleged seditious acts. Officers today displayed weapons, including air guns, swords and bows, and arrows, which they say were found after searching 3 premises. Senior Superintendent Steve Lee said police cracked down on what he called an underground group, which has been operating for 2 years. He claimed that the group wanted to set a Hong Kong independence armed force. Last Sunday, a 59-year-old martial arts instructor and his female assistant were detained on suspicion of acting with seditious intent. They were arrested in a venue in Tsim Sha Tsui, where netizens were invited to train in martial arts. Development Secretary Michael Wong says amendments to a proposal to streamline land development procedures will be put before lawmakers in the fourth quarter of this year. Wong proposed cutting the number of public consultation rounds from 3 to 2. He suggested that the Town Planning Board invite fewer of those who make representations in public hearings. Social welfare legislator Tik Chi-yun said the proposal deprives voters' rights to participate in the development plans. 3 people were injured and 7 cars damaged when a suspect tried to flee from police. The incident happened at noon when officers conducting an anti-drug operation in Chunlong village near Route Twisk found a motorist acting suspiciously. The man drove off when officers approached him, but he lost control of his car, which flipped into the air when it hit 2 approaching vehicles near the entrance of the village. As the car landed, it damaged 4 cars parked nearby. The 37-year-old motorist was arrested on a drug trafficking charge. 2 other drivers were also injured. The Hong Kong stock market rallied today after Beijing pledged more support to stabilize the economy. Tech shares led the gainers. Chloe Feng has the story.
Investors returned to buying mode today, sending the Hang Seng Index up 3.2% to a 2-week high. This came after Premier Li Keqiang pledged to use policy tools to keep expanding credit while avoiding measures that will dampen investment sentiment. Tech stocks led the rally, with the Hang Seng Tech Index gaining over 5%. Alibaba jumped 11.2% after raising its stock buyback plan to a record $25 billion. But analysts warned that the rebound could be only short-term.
Because if they have many new investment or many new projects in the futures, they will use the money to invest in other new projects, but not do the repurchase. So if they choose to repurchase, that means in the coming future, they cannot see any new good projects to let their profit to have a better performance.
Wong, however, believes the tech sector will perform well. Other tech giants also rose, with Bilibili gaining 6.8% and Meituan up 6.3%. Trading in the shares of Evergrande were suspended after the mainland developer said it will not be able to publish its financial results for last year by the end of the month because of incomplete audit work, but will do so as soon as possible. Chloe Feng, HKIBC.
Now let's take a look at the markets. The Hang Seng Index ended 667 points up. To the top 10 active stocks, Tencent was up $15.60, Alibaba up $11.10, and JD.com up $14.80. Sunac up 19 cents, Li-Ning up $5.50, and Ping An up $1.20. To the forex trading against the Hong Kong dollar, the euro is trading at 8.61, British pound at 10.35, and Australian dollar at 5.81. Over in the UK market, the FTSE 100 is up 34 points. Striking workers at a Chevron refinery in the U.S. state of California have laughed off claims that their campaign for improved safety and better pay has led to higher prices at the pump.
It is Chevron that is raising the prices. It is their greed for more and more profits that is causing the gas prices to go up. The workers are just wanting to provide a decent life for themselves, their families, and they want to do a good job. They want to keep the refinery safe.
More than 500 workers at the Chevron plant in San Francisco's Bay Area said they had no choice but to strike. They complained of working 70 hours a week to make ends meet. The workers warned that fatigue could endanger safety at the refinery. Chevron said it would continue to operate despite the strike. On to the weather now. Tomorrow will be cloudy with showers. Expect a few squally thunderstorms in the morning. Temperatures will range between 16 and 23 degrees. More rain through the week. Now let's take a look at the weather around the world. That's our main news for Tuesday night. Join us for more news at 11. I'm Johanna Chan. Good evening.